Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and we have a couple big PlayStation rumors to talk about today, including the often rumored PlayStation 5 Pro. Sounds like some legitimate information is right around the corner. This new PS5 Pro might soon claim the spot of being the most powerful console this generation thus far. Though I do recommend proceeding with at least a little bit of caution here, and I'll explain why in just a moment. Then also, the Square Enix PlayStation partnership might actually strengthen, according to a new leak, and I find this particularly curious after an event that happened just a few months back. Then on top of that, did Xbox hint at Blade's exclusivity for Xbox? Well, some people do believe that to be the case, so yeah, we do have a lot to get into today. So go ahead and buckle up and have some fun, but let's just go and jump right into things. Starting off with Nintendo, they have been a little bit quiet here recently. I do suspect that some of that is because they're saving some of those reveals for an early 2024 Nintendo Direct. Crossing my fingers for that. But they did drop a very welcome update for Switch Online Plus expansion pack subscribers. They announced this right around the time of the Game Awards, so I feel like it kind of got buried into the dozens upon dozens of major headlines that was going around last week. But if you are an expansion pack subscriber, you can now play 1080 Snowboarding, Harvest Moon 64, and Jet Force Gemini. I think these are all very welcome titles from the Nintendo 64 library. To me, snowboarding games in general, they're always fun, easy to pick up and play type of games. And then Harvest Moon 64. I know there's a lot of love for this particular series, and I think especially in today's world where these farming simulator type of games are quite popular. So going back to this genre from the 90s could be a great way to see where those elements began and hit you with a nice nostalgia punch as well. For me personally, though, the big inclusion here is Jet Force Gemini. For me, I grew up with a lot of those Rareware games. They're actually one of my favorite studios of all time, and this, of course, includes Jet Force Gemini. And for whatever reason, Jet Force Gemini is one of their games that's always stood out to me. It's kind of this weird mishmash of genres. It's a collectathon, third-person shooting platformer, and that might sound odd on paper, but I do remember having a lot of fun with this game. And the thing about this game is that it's actually pretty unique. We've not really gotten a game like this since that's done a great job with all of those elements combined. Now, admittedly, though, I haven't really played through Jet Force Gemini since I was a kid, so I am a little bit curious about how it's aged, especially with its controls. But if you are a Switch Online subscriber, I definitely encourage you to at least give it a try. Again, all these games are available right now. Let's go get right into the PlayStation stuff, though, because it does appear some legitimate PS5 Pro information is inbound. This is pretty exciting stuff here. This is coming from Tom Henderson, which by this point has more than proven to be an accurate insider, and I think especially when it comes to PlayStation hardware. Just this year alone, he's accurately leaked the PlayStation 5 quote-unquote Slim and the PlayStation Portal. He got both of those correct, including their details, so, you know, when he speaks, there is a reason to actually believe it. What's happening here, though, is that there is a leak currently going around that claims to know the PS5 specs. I'll go and share an image here, but there's already claims that this is fake, so I wouldn't really look into this rumor specifically. But Tom Henderson was asked about this online, and this is what he said. Can't comment on other people's leaks because I don't know. Internally, Sony is expecting full specs to leak this month because of dev kit distribution to third-party studios. So even if those rumors are fake, he is saying that those dev kits are out in third parties' hands right now, and because of that, there is an expectation that leaks will be coming rather soon. So there is a good chance that we will see some legitimate information for the PS5 Pro as early as this month. Now, what I'd personally recommend here, though, is to go in with at least some type of caution. And what I mean by that is that now that people know that the specs are quote-unquote expected to leak, there is a likely chance that somebody will take advantage of the situation and kind of spread some fake leaks as well. So I'd say the best practice here is to really stick with reliable insiders like Tom Henderson as an example. If you hear some unnamed person say that these are the specs, I would be highly skeptical of that. more or less, just don't believe everything that you see online. You know, though, of course, if something seemingly legitimate pops up, I will share it with you all. But according to previous leaks, Sony's goal with the PS5 Pro is to more or less offer a stable 60 FPS at 4K resolution. That is what I would go in expecting. And truthfully, if it can do that alone, that already, in my opinion, is a meaningful upgrade. One trend that we've really seen this year is that 30 FPS games have slowly started to creep back into the fold, Final Fantasy 16 being one such example. But the PS5 Pro could potentially fix that problem. It could all but ensure more games can run at that buttery smooth 60 frames per second, and that might be even more important as the generation goes on. I mean, you have to understand that we're expected to see more graphically demanding games as the generation goes on, more Unreal Engine 5 games, and that's where a mid-generation refresh like this would come in. As we saw last generation, the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, they proved that there's an audience for these type of consoles, and I think that it's smart for Sony to give fans that option for a more premium console that will kind of future-proof the PS5 a bit more. So I think just targeting that 4K 60 FPS mark is more than enough for a console like this if it's priced correctly. And I think that there is the big question for me. Not necessarily the specs, because ultimately I am expecting them to target that 60 FPS at 4K resolution. I think that that's an achievable goal. I'm also expecting them to advertise ray tracing as one of its key features. That's a feature that so far this generation hasn't really lived up to the hype, but maybe with the PlayStation 5 Pro, ray tracing will have been improved. But what I really want to know is the price. You know, this generation has been weird in the sense that we're seeing price increases rather than price reductions. That's not a normal thing for a console cycle. But with that in mind, if the current PS5 sticks at its current price tag of $500 for the physical version, we could actually end up seeing a very pricey PlayStation 5 Pro. So I will be curious to see PlayStation's plans with all of that and whether or not they try to make it affordable. Could we maybe see a price cut for the current models before the PS5 Pro comes out, or are they going to give us the PS5 Pro at a truly premium price? I mean, I guess we'll see, but either way, sounds like some information is going to be inbound rather soon. Now, speaking of PlayStation, though, that's not the only big rumor going around, because there's also a claim that Sony and Square Enix's partnership is going to increase and amount to even more exclusive titles in the future. This is coming from Head on the Block, which was previously I'm a Hero 2. Now, he has gotten some leaks correct in the past. He's also got some things wrong, so you can kind of take this rumor as you will. But because it's spreading online pretty rapidly, I thought we should at least talk about it today. My only thing with this, though, is that in some ways, this rumor does seemingly contradicts some other things that we've kind of seen throughout this year. For starters, it was just mere months ago that Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, showed up on Square Enix's stage where they announced a new partnership with Square Enix. Square Enix pledged that they would release more games on Xbox when possible, including, of course, Final Fantasy XIV. This also coincides with Square Enix having a new CEO, one that might not necessarily be interested in exclusive titles, or at least from what we've seen so far. I mean, look no further than Visions of Mana as an example. The Mana series is not known to release on Xbox platforms, and you can see that with the Trials of Mana remake that released back in 2020. That game to this day is not available on Xbox. But just as Square Enix previously promised, Visions of Mana, the newest entry, is heading over to Xbox simultaneously with all other platforms in 2024. So Square is delivering on their word so far that they are going to support Xbox more, and with that, I do find it odd that Square Enix and Xbox would commit to a public partnership just months ago, and then with this newest leak, Square would just turn around and double down on PlayStation exclusives. I think one way that would make sense is that if maybe Sony and Square Enix had already signed some exclusive contracts before the Xbox partnership was made. Maybe this was even under the previous Square Enix CEO. That's something that we can't necessarily rule out. But if this rumor is true, the two games that I would kind of look at is the Final Fantasy 9 and 10 remake that we keep hearing about. Did Sony lock those down? Is that possible? That is something to maybe watch out for. But yeah, for the time being, I would definitely take this with a grain of salt. Now, one other thing that we need to talk about, though, is the rampant speculation that surrounds the new Blade title developed by Arcane. Everybody right now wants to know what platform or platforms this game is coming to. Of course, Arcane is owned by Bethesda, which is owned by Xbox. So, is this an exclusive? Because the trailer that they revealed didn't actually reveal platforms. There was no mention of Xbox, and in fact, Bethesda and Xbox has remained silent since Blade was revealed. So why exactly are they being so tight-lipped around this situation? And speculation by this point has just gone wild. However, something very interesting happened over the weekend because Xbox's Aaron Greenberg decided to briefly change his Twitter profile picture to this. You can see Blade with Xbox logos in his eyes and he's giving a thumbs up. Now this almost comes off as him saying that, yeah, this is an Xbox game without actually saying it. So once again, speculation exploded online until Aaron eventually changed his profile picture back to normal. Now, I do have a screenshot that I took, though, because I knew as soon as I saw this picture, I knew it was only going to be a matter of time before he took it down. I imagine that Phil Spencer probably told him, you can't do this, so he changed it back. See, like I said last week, what I personally think is happening here is that Xbox has decided to keep Blade's platforms as an open-ended question because they still have a legal matter to tend to with the FTC going after the ABK acquisition. Blade is a significant and popular title, and if it's actually an exclusive, that will hurt their case against the FTC. So even though the FTC doesn't have a great case, we've talked about this plenty in the past, but even so, it's still best for Microsoft to just leave Blade's platforms undecided for the time being. It's not like Blade's going to be out for a very long time anyways. I mean, we're probably looking at 2027 at the very earliest. So they have plenty of time to announce platforms later down the road. And you can even look at The Elder Scrolls 6 and Indiana Jones as two such examples. We know from the FTC case that they're planning to make those Xbox exclusives, but Microsoft has yet to talk about that publicly with fans. So, I mean, they're going to announce this stuff eventually, and it's going to cause controversy no matter what they decide to do. And that could be another reason that they're avoiding this. I mean, who knows? But for the time being, I think the safe bet here is to go in expecting that Blade will be an Xbox console exclusive. If it's not, we'll come back to this topic at a later date, but I think for now, because this is a game coming from an Xbox-based studio, it's the safe bet to make that, yeah, it's likely going to be an Xbox console exclusive. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, do you think the Game Awards should put more focus on the awards during their showcases in the future? And the vast majority of you all did vote yes here, which I completely agree with. I think it's incredibly ironic how little attention they get in a showcase that's quite literally named the Game Awards. But honestly, my bigger issue with how they handled it this year was the blatant disrespect that they gave to developers. You could tell that they were rushing the winners off stage as fast as possible, which, when you compare that to the lengthy amount of time that they gave Kojima on stage, it just comes off as disrespectful. Now, Jeff Keighley, he responded to some of the criticism by saying, by the way, I do agree that the music was played too fast for award winners this year, and I asked our team to relax that rule as the show went on. While no one was actually cut off, it's something to address going forward. So, I mean, he kind of addressed the issue here, but I don't really like his response. To me, it almost comes off as him trying to shift blame, which I think is complete nonsense. I mean, if you think about it, he gives this excuse that he tried to make some last-minute changes while the showcase was running. But they had months to plan this showcase, which obviously he's involved in. And let's be honest about things. His priorities was front and center. They obviously had the goal in mind to rush through these speeches and focus more on the game announcements. And despite his response, they did, in fact, cut some people off. So, I mean, I hope they fix this in the future, but truth be told, I'm not convinced that he will. Despite the name of the showcase, the Game Awards is more similar to a showcase like E3 than it is to an actual Game Awards event. The Game Awards also gets a massive viewership online, so I don't think that there's really any incentive for him to necessarily make big changes. Now, if the viewership were to drop off, then we might be having a different story, but I think people are going to tune into these events pretty much no matter what. So I don't think that they're going to make any major changes. I think it's only really going to be minor. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you like the video, don't forget to hit the notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.